Is Kirito dead? No, he's not dead. He's the protagonist of the series, for God's sake. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk, and it's time for the first episode of Sword Art Online Alicization Explained, featuring the 1 hour long first episode, Underworld. If you're new to my channel and haven't watched my alternative Eugeo explained videos, in this series I go over the episodes, not in a mindless, shallow, pointing out the obvious manner, like many breakdown videos. I'll be talking about specific scenes that have major significance to the series' past and future, as well as explain things where they are not clear, and of course certain things that have been omitted during the anime adaptation are a big part of this. If you're interested for a little bit more heavy context that touches on certain spoilers, my Alicization opening video may be interesting for you, which is why my episode 1 video got delayed. But hey, these episode explained videos won't be involving future spoilers, so you don't need to worry. One final notice before we start. If I mention something in this video, no matter how much of a minor detail it may sound like, just trust me, I mentioned because you'll be happy in the future that you kept that detail in your mind. There is nothing I say in these explained videos that is not meaningful, so try to remember all the details. Our journey begins in July 18 of the year 372 of Human Empire. Kirito and Eugeo, who have received the calling of a carver, are at chopping down the demon tree Giga Cedar. This is a gigantic tree right next to the northern town of Rulid that is so large that it's draining the life of everything around it, preventing the little village from growing more farmland. So for generations, 6 generations already in fact, the villagers of Rulid were trying to cut the tree down. Being the 10-year-old kids they are, they had turned this into a game. As they were switching every 50 hits, they were counting their quote-unquote solid hits, since the children were still not masters at swinging an axe, so they just turned it into a competition. But their journey becomes a little bit more interesting than just chopping down a tree for their entire life, as Kirito wants to go grab some ice from inside the End Mountains. And while the good boy Eugeo is kinda reluctant to this idea, Alice is indeed very intrigued by that, and is in fact the person convincing the other 2 kids by interpreting the taboo index, the absolute rules of the human empire created by the Axiom Church, in a certain way. In these neat visuals, as Kirito tells the legend of Berkuli and the Northern White Dragon, keep Berkuli's face in mind, will ya? Like, for a long time. This guy is a true legend in Rulid village, as he is one of the founders of the town, but is also one of the rare people in this world whom you may call an adventurer of some sorts for the time being, which makes him a pretty special person in the human empire in general. The retelling of the myth in the anime fails to portray one of the unique and important features of the Blue Rose sword though, as it should have bloomed a blue rose and actually trapped Berkuli with vines instead, which is a pretty important piece of information that the anime has omitted regarding the sword. Since this is an hour-long episode though, I'll try to gloss over the very minor things in an attempt to keep things concise, which means we are going straight into the cave in the End Mountains. But keep in mind, still, if I mention something, even if it sounds minor, do take notice, as the things I mention in these videos I mention for a reason. They managed to get to the place where Berkuli made it into the legends, only to find out the dragon protecting the area was dead, killed by clear sword marks. Thinking about what or who may have killed the protector White Dragon, they suddenly come to another much more concerning realization. With the protector gone, this was the first instance that the kids realized the human empire was in fact in danger, but there will be much more obvious clues for them in the future. In the meanwhile, Kirito tried lifting up the Blue Rose sword, but despite how elegant it looked, it just felt too heavy for Kirito at that moment. With their ice reserve stacked though, it was time to head out, but I just love this scene. In complete silence, both kids point towards the opposite direction, which is something that'll bite them in the ass and will be a strong lesson for at least one of the kids involved in this picture. But on the other side, they find a dark territory, a place where they are forbidden to trespass into, as well as 2 knights on dragons fighting each other. While the fight is great and all, the anime kinda glossed over the reactions of the kids, which was the highlight of this section. This is the time where the kids start questioning the truths they have been taught since they were born. It started back in the cave where they considered the possibility of an Integrity Knight, the supposed protectors of humanity, having killed a guardian of the realm. But now, the thought of Integrity Knights are the strongest creatures alive was being challenged right in front of their eyes, with them seeing this Integrity Knight going head to head with a Dark Knight. Sure, the Dark Knight eventually loses, but the novels make a clear reference to how the two warriors are exact matches to each other in terms of power. The Dark Knight was killed by a fiery arrow shot by the Integrity Knight, and this shook Alice deeply. As the Dark Knight reached out desperately for help, Alice was compelled to help him after he saw the Integrity Knight, a protector of humanity mind you, take a life in front of her eyes. She fell down when Kirito tried to stop him, and her hand grazed the dark territory. The Purple Window reported her ID to some authority out there. Just keep in mind that the kids had no idea as to what was going on, since English in Underworld is just a mishmash of random sounds only used by priests and is used for sacred arts, a form of magic in Underworld, so they literally cannot understand anything in this case that was said by the person looking through the window. You can think of English in Underworld as the same thing as the magic chants back in Alfheim Online. They are pretty much unintelligible sounds to the residents simply because they do not understand the chanting language and can only hear random sounds. But the next day, they would learn the meaning of what just happened, as the same Integrity Knight from the day before, Du Solbert Synthesis 7, appeared in Rulit to apprehend Alice. You should keep the style of his armor as well as his face and name in mind, because this isn't the last time you see him. But this is also where it got quite obvious that the anime was in a time crunch to adapt the content of the first prologue into the first half hours of the 1 hour story they had. Lots of things were omitted in the adaptation, like Gosford Zuberg, Alice's father, providing a little bit of opposition at the very least, wanting to hear the story from her daughter and attempting to call her to the scene. While they were talking, Kirito and Eugeo tried sneaking Alice out of the scene, but Du Solbert rejected Gosford's offer and claimed that it wouldn't be necessary. He located the kids in the crowd despite them not even being visible from that, and pointed towards them for villagers to grab Alice, and the villagers complied while keeping Kirito and Eugeo away. But the rest is essentially what you saw: Kirito trying to reason with the knight only to be ignored, followed by him attacking the knight only to get pushed back by a mysterious force stemming from the sheer amount of confidence and intimidation spreading from the huge figure in armor, as well as, Eugeo suddenly freezing due to the taboo index preventing him from doing anything. The words rang in his mind as the red seal blurred his vision. The axiom church is absolute. The taboo index is absolute. Disobedience is forbidden. No one is exempt from the law. Kirito woke up in the hospital with no memories of losing his childhood friend of 10 years, crying next to the soul translator unit. Next up, we have the anime original Eugeo scenes, and oh boy, so many cameos. The cast has an original design for Eugeo and are not using the Fatal Bullet designs, but there are Fatal Bullet stuff in here too, including game advertisements. But first things first, Shinon and Co are fighting against the PK squadron in Eugeo, and one of the members you know from the past, and one of them you know if you played Fatal Bullet DLC 3 and got the secret ending for it. The person with the cigarette is Po, the leader of Laughing Coffin back in SAO, distinguishable with the same face tattoo he had back in Aincrad. The other person is Subtilizer, and all you need to know for now is that he hungers for souls. Their PK squad is assumed to be conducting some large-scale training exercises for some quote-unquote operation, as Subtilizer puts it. Back in SPC Glocken, Zeliska and Kuroya from the Fatal Bullet original cast are clearly visible, and even more, you can see the results of the 4th Bullet of Bullets tournament with Subtilizer as the winner, Shinon as second. Yamikaze, Dain and Musketeer X are characters you'll remember from Phantom Bullet arc, but on the 5th place we have Itsuki, and on the 10th place we have Kuroya from Fatal Bullet. As expected from the crownless queen Zeliska, while famous, she does not appear on any leaderboards since she doesn't take place in competitions due to secretly being a Zaskar employee. And if you look around, you can see Fatal Bullet advertisements all around. But here you also see Kirito being quite tired, which lets us transition nicely into the next scene as we learn Kirito had been diving in the Soul Translator unit, a new type of VR device, for the past 3 days without getting out. All the exposition in the Dicey Cafe I'll likely skip, except for this one very important thing. It's really hilarious that Egil only has a single line throughout the entire scene, and that's just grunting towards Shinon as they leave the place. Inside Dicey Cafe, tons of exposition was presented, most important being Kirito not recalling any memories from the main experiment, and while it's only implied, I'll state it clear for you. He didn't remember anything from the real world when he was a kid in Underworld either. As he explains how the accelerated time in Underworld works, Kirito mentions he probably lived around 10 days, maybe a month at most, but you can probably sense that there is a disparity between a kid that was 10 years old in the world and a person who just spent a month at most in a world with no memories. Also need to mention the Ogma name drop, of course, as Kirito explains his blocked memories, as well as Asuna's promise ring that Kirito gave him at the end of Ordinal Scale is there. One of the major things omitted from the cafe dialogue was Shinon's story of how she lost to Subtilizer in the 4th BOB. Shinon explained that Subtilizer won the entire tournament without using a single weapon as he took down everyone with his bare hands. And considering the quote-unquote training exercise from earlier, you can probably come to certain conclusions yourself. When he was taking out Shinon though, Subtilizer had spoken English. The last words Shinon remembers were, "Your soul will be so sweet." And one thing that was omitted from this scene was the fact that Kirito remembered the initial tests where he was put in an empty room filled with tons of different shapes and forms of cats. I have no clue why this was omitted, since we all know on the internet cats equal views. On the way out we see Kirito quite concerned looking around, which is deliberately showcased. What was omitted, however, was that Shinon also had the same uneasy feeling when she left Dicey Cafe, but thought she was just being paranoid. But that was effectively one of the major reasons why Kirito decided to escort Asuna to her home, as he felt like someone was following them. And well, if you watched my Journey So Far Phantom Bullet video, you probably do remember the good old Johnny Black here by name, aka Kanamoto Atsushi. And if your memory was good enough, you also remember the special injection device Death Gun was using in Phantom Bullet. Atsushi was the 3rd Death Gun member helping with the operation, and he was after Kirito. This was hinted all the way back in Phantom Bullet as well, when the main Death Gun Shinkawa Shoichi sent Kirito a message from prison. And Johnny Black easily gets the upper hand in this fight against Kirito and injects him with the heart-stopping drug. Asuna rushes towards Kirito as he collapses, and that is where I'm wrapping up this video, since I do not know if the second episode will start with the short scene that follows this specific scene, or if it'll jump straight into action. Either way, I am extremely excited and we'll talk about it in the second episode instead, whether we're shown or not. And especially, I have to talk about the OP, it is absolutely mesmerizing. Again, it's an OP filled with tons of Easter eggs and cameos of future events, so if you don't mind spoilers, I strongly recommend checking my opening explained video for Alicization. Also, if you want to read the novels yourself and get ahead of the anime, Amazon affiliate links are in the description. Subscribe for more Alicization explained videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Oh, also, Journey So Far Ordinal Scale has been delayed until the anime comes closer to the end of Alicization Turning Volume 11.